Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dive into one of the most fascinating and, frankly, mysterious stories from the childhood of the Prophet Muhammad. It's a tale that has it all: angelic beings, a kind of supernatural surgery, and a puzzle that really challenges how we separate a historical person from the legend that grows around them. We'll be using Lesley Hazleton's fantastic biography, The First Muslim, as our guide. So, let's get into it.
Imagine hearing those words. That's the panic shout of Muhammad's foster brother, sprinting back to his family's tent in the desert. This terrified cry is the very start of the legend, a moment of sheer confusion and awe told through the eyes of the family who was raising young Muhammad.
So this event, you could almost call it a divine open-heart surgery, is one of the most famous stories from his early years. For centuries, it's been held up as proof that he was destined for something extraordinary. But the story isn't quite that simple. The real question is, what was really going on here?
Okay, so first, let's just lay out the basic story as it's most often told. This is the core account of that divine surgery, a story that has been absolutely foundational in Islamic tradition for centuries.
I mean, just try to picture it. You're a young boy, out in the quiet emptiness of the desert, just watching over the flock. And then, out of nowhere, you're at the center of this incredible, supernatural event. Two beings appear, they lay you down, and they perform an operation that seems both totally physical and deeply spiritual.
All right, but here is where it gets really interesting. This story, it's not just one single account. Nope. Depending on who's telling it, the whole feeling of the event, its entire meaning, completely changes. We have two very, very different perspectives to look at.
So on one side, you've got the version from his foster mother, Halima. Her story is just soaked in terror and confusion. She didn't see it herself. She gets the news from her panic son, and she has no idea what to make of it. She says the men were searching for I don't know what. But then you have the other version, which comes from later accounts attributed to Muhammad himself, and the tone, it's a complete 180. It's calm, it's methodical. He describes it all from the inside, saying the angels took out a black drop, like a symbol of human weakness, and literally washed his heart with snow until it was pure.
So what do we do with that? We have these two completely conflicting tellings. One is all about fear of the unknown, and the other is about calm, divine purpose. How are we supposed to read this? Is it a literal, physical miracle? Is it a beautiful metaphor for achieving spiritual purity? Or is there something else going on here?
Well, to even get close to an answer, biographer Lesley Hazleton says we should maybe flip the question on its head. Instead of just asking what happened, maybe the more important question is why did this story need to be told in the first place? And what Hazleton points to is something that's just deeply human. If this powerful desire we all have for our faith to be backed up by something we can see and touch, we want a sign, a wonder, a miracle that we can point to and say, see, I told you, he was chosen. Now, this is the kicker. This is the crucial point. There's this incredible tension here because the Quran itself, the central holy book, repeatedly insists that it is the miracle, not flashy signs and wonders. And yet, this story, which became so popular among later believers, puts a very physical, very dramatic miracle right at the start of Muhammad's life. It's a fascinating paradox.
So you see, this legend ends up doing a lot of work for the community. It provides what feels like physical proof of his inner purity. It also helps him fit into what people back then expected a prophet to be like. Someone marked by heavenly signs. It gives believers a concrete, amazing story to hold on to, and it paints this picture of a person who is divinely perfected, literally cleansed, from the time he was a boy.
So at its core, the story becomes this powerful symbol. It helps transform Muhammad from a person in history into a perfect, flawless vessel for God's message, someone physically marked by divine intervention from a young age. And you have to admit, that's an incredibly potent image. But this all leads to a really important, maybe even difficult question. What happens when we elevate a historical figure to this level of perfect legend? What's the cost of that kind of idealization? Hazleton makes such a powerful point here. When we create this perfect, idealized version of someone, we risk losing sight of the complex, messy, living person they actually were. We smooth out all the rough edges that, make them human.
And this is why it all matters. By demanding this kind of perfection from the very start, the legend makes it harder to accept the very real human struggles Muhammad experienced. Struggles that are actually right there in the earliest sources. Think about his own terror, his doubt, after he received his first revelation. Those moments of profound vulnerability, of being just human, they can get lost when the story requires a flawless hero.
So, in the end, by breaking down this one story from a childhood long ago, we're left with a much bigger question for all of us. It makes you think about how we build our heroes, how we write our histories. Because the stories we choose to tell, they aren't just stories. They actively define how we see the past, and in doing that, they shape our entire understanding of the very real, very human people at the heart of it all.